The human mind has only one need, and that is the perpetual need to express our authentic identity.
Okay.
We don't stop expressing our identity. Then that's what
Okay.
we're up to. And we do it through objects, people, and events. I discovered through my research that there are four virtues to humanity, which is love, justice, wisdom, and power. Love is the domain that runs from caring to love. Wisdom is from being curious to being wise. Justice is about harmony to justice. And power is about change to power. That's a whole domain. Every person wants to express their authentic identity. And quite often they're not allowed to. There's many obstacles, bosses, wives, husbands, children. So those are the obstacles to that expression. So what I'm doing is enabling them to express their authentic identity. And that is what brings happiness and joy to them.
And that is coming up next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams show, so stay tuned. So, the big question is this. How are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough? Use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams. Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. We have created a tremendous community of bootstrappers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ambitious, resourceful, and want to get things done. We brainstorm, support, and help each other out. So come join us. Navigate to bootstrapping.group, join today, and get the Startup Founders Technology Accelerator video series absolutely free. If you enjoy this video, then do let us know by hitting that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, then go ahead and hit that thumbs down button and give us your honest feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tetranoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging videos, interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing and do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content. Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with John Voris. So after 20 years of unsuccessful cold calling, selling, John decided to throw out everything and take a fresh approach. Drawing on his degree in philosophy, he invented a groundbreaking approach to personal inquiry that revealed a person's life motivation and authentic design far beyond sales. And he was successful within 6 months. And now as a CEO of Authentic Systems, John educates using practical and teachable methods and techniques based on European psychology that guides others in their life choices regarding success or failure in their career, business relationships, and personal development and well-being. Often compared to Jordan Peterson by his colleagues, John is an international best-selling author and passionate about leading people to attain their life goals by helping them find their true motivation. Welcome, John. You have an amazing resume. I'd love to explore more. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, by the way.
Awesome. All right. So before we get down into the good stuff and learn more about sales, can you walk us down the memory lane and tell us a little bit about your previous experiences, cold calling experiences, and the approaches that you tried and didn't work?
Sure. Back when my college days, I needed a part-time job, and I was attracted to door-to-door cold calling because you didn't need any experience, and there will train. And my parents were in sales as well, so it seemed like an obvious direction to go. Well, I tried cold calling 4 times in a row and was fired all 4 times. But in each time I would go to seminars and workshops and read books, and I would go out and get into another position and get fired again. And then finally I decided I'm going to try again, but this time I will quit before I get fired so I don't have to go through the humiliation. So that's 7 times.
I
Um,
see.
I earned my degree, and I was going to go to law school, but that didn't interest me any longer. And I bought a delicatessen.
Mm-hmm.
And I then when I sold it, I wanted to sell it about 5 years later. One of my wholesalers came to me and says, "Why don't you sell for me?" And it's wholesale, so it's very different. There are grocery stores, delicatessens, restaurants, so they have the need, the money. So I thought that'd be great. So my deli was an escrow, and he gives me a call and he says, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to have to file bankruptcy."
Wow.
But then he said, "Don't worry about it, because we're going to go back to where the company started 50 years ago, which is
Mm-hmm.
door-to-door cold call selling."
Mm-hmm. I see.
Now, keep in mind, at that point, I had a wife and a child, and she did not work. And
Wow.
I'm looking at 7 attempts at utter failure.
Mm-hmm.
But what I learned in philosophy of language is huge topic. It would fill a modest bookstore, which gives you an
Wow.
idea of how much language is not being taught to people in sales, and communication is the number one tool. So
Yeah.
what I did is I focused only on what they're called continental psychology.
Okay.
And the Europeans approach it from psychology from the point of view of what does it mean to be human?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas American or Western psychology is focusing on behavior.
I see.
So we do both, but it's our minds that are generating our physical activities. And
Mm-hmm.
so then I want to stop and say there are many self-help courses and workshops benefit many, many people. I fell through the cracks.
I
So
see.
that's how I look at it. They're very, very
Right.
good. But I
Mm-hmm.
did. And so I thought maybe there's something missing. So I
Mm-hmm.
used the philosophy of language and especially symbolism. And through that method, I was able to sell where
Uh-huh.
before I didn't. Now, when I say sell, I went from 0 and getting fired to 12 to 14 cold call sales out of 20. That's
I
very
see.
high.
Wow.
And I did that for 20 years, and I
Mm-hmm.
retired in about
Mm-hmm.
2003, and decided, if I can do it, and I'm not designed to do this, I'm not designed to sell at all, but I can
Mm-hmm.
do this. Why don't I give this technique and methods to people who really have talent?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I've been
yeah.
doing that ever since.
That's awesome. That's a great story. And didn't Europeans invent psychology? I mean, I think there's a Swiss psychologist,
Carl
Alfred Jung,
Jung,
or yeah, yeah,
yeah, Carl Jung worked with
Carl Jung.
Freud, but even
Yeah.
before that, the first, he's considered the first psychologist, was actually Soren Kierkegaard, who was a philosopher in Denmark in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And that's the first exposure I had to the whole notion of choice and how your authentic identity is involved and how it develops.
That's great. Well, let's get familiar with this. So, how much of this can you share today? Like, obviously this is a free podcast, so I'd like to make sure that we give the audience enough so that they get value. But obviously, we can't cover everything. So, what do you think we can cover in this short period of time that we have together?
Well, one is let's say, the human mind only has one need. That's
Mm-hmm.
very different than you find in America.
Mm-hmm.
The human mind has only one need, and that is the perpetual need to express our authentic identity.
Okay.
We don't stop expressing our identity. Then that's what
Okay.
we're up to. And we do it through objects, people, and events. So right where you're sitting, I'm saying the objects around you that has some religious connotations, philosophic connotations, and I'm getting a sense of who you are already.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, what I would do is discover in advance someone's profession.
Mm-hmm.
And from that profession, get a good idea of who they were before they began, before I even saw them. Because everything around you are previous decisions. They're right there for everybody to see.
Mm-hmm.
So why not read what's around you and discover who you are? Discover what really motivates you, rather than hypothetical or imaginary. I can go straight to very practical point of view, which is you're just showing me who you are. And I did that in every prospect I saw, and I do it today. And I've helped couples understanding each other through how they interact with objects, etc. And it's very, very useful, but not taught in this country.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Just to get a little bit deeper, because it's so intriguing, I would love to learn a little bit more. And especially on a cold calling, like, when you're calling somebody, especially back in the day, there was no LinkedIn, there was no Google.
Right.
How did you figure out, what this person is all about before you call them?
Okay. So let's imagine I'm about to see a master carpenter. A master carpenter takes about 20 years.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to ask you, what would it take to be a master carpenter?
Well, it'll take love for woodworking. It'll take patience to learn the art, and it'll take, I guess, resiliency to get over the initial humps. You'll end up making a lot of mistakes. So, dedicating your time, 20 years of your life towards an art, you have to be really passionate and really hardworking.
Good. So yeah, the one point you landed on was patience.
Mhm.
They really need to be patient. And if
Mhm.
someone wanted to go into carpentry and they discovered that they don't have that patience, what's going to happen is they're going to generate a poor product, quit or get fired.
Yeah.
And so that is an attribute to that cold call I'm about to see.
I
All right.
see.
So doesn't matter what widget I'm selling.
Mhm.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to use that in the terminology through which I describe what I'm selling.
I see.
So you see, so I would say this is long lasting. People invest in this. This is worthwhile over time. And I would really stress time. And then I'd also notice that they're very detailed. So I would give them detailed information, rather than the sweeping theory, because they're not going to be attracted to that. Because everyone, again, they want to express themselves through objects. So if I describe the object that reflects who they are, they're going to want it. And that's what happens.
Nice. That's
So
great.
I would be able to see who they are before. Another way I do that in my workshop is you and I are going to create a Western movie. So when you think about a Western movie, well, what's in a Western movie? Let's say it's 1850. What's in a Western movie? Well, there's horses and there's cowboys and there's a saloon and there's all these things. So you're not going to open up the door to a saloon and see someone with a full scuba gear sitting at the bar. That's not going to happen. You'd have to call it something else. Yeah. Now, that getting back to my example of being a master carpenter, it's the same thing. It's all about archetypes in both cases. If you want to do a Western, there's certain things that are going to be there. If Bob is in carpentry, he's going to be of a certain type and kind. They're really going to be the most powerful part of who they are. Yeah. And so by doing that, by saying that, again, all I have to do is language my widget toward what I'm saying.
Got it. That's great. And now seems like you have a background in psychology, if I'm right. You have a degree in psychology, yes?
No, I have a degree in philosophy, but I studied a great deal in European psychology.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for correcting me. So now my next question will be, when you train somebody, like, obviously it's impractical to actually study so deeply philosophy and psychology. So do you give them some sort of a framework or some easy ways to sort of, navigate these paradigms and understand human behavior quickly?
Sure. As a matter of fact, behind you, you have your books and you have little statues. So I would ask you, what do they mean to you? And you would tell me. Okay, so now I would say, just describe some other objects that you'd run across, say with a prospect. What would they be? Who was the last person you saw? So if I walked into a beauty salon, these are people who are very social. They're very close to empathy, feeling. And so what I would do, again, is I would language what I'm selling toward emotions and feelings. I see. So I would teach people how to read objects. And it's not hard. There's really, well, I don't want to get too deep there, but you have the social meaning of things. But then because it's in your domain, it means something to you specifically. So you have the general and the specific. So all you do is read the general and then say, okay, if I have a lot of these, well, that's going to mean that that represents this person. And I could teach that. In fact, I do that in a workshop about 2 hours.
Nice, very cool. And so, obviously, as you teach them, the person who's receiving this information, they also have to be versatile enough and have the varied experiences that they can sort of adjust their pitch, adjust their message according to what is being presented to them, like right on the fly, right? It's not. I don't think like you can just develop that skill very quickly, like, or can you can you give them that ability to come up with new messaging like right away?
Oh, absolutely. And the way it's done is I discovered through my research that there are 4 virtues to humanity, which is love, justice, wisdom, and power. Love is the domain that runs from caring to love. Wisdom is from being curious to being wise. Justice is about harmony to justice, and power is about change to power. That's the whole domain. So I would say, if you are wisdom, you already have the instruments to do exactly what you want to do. So that's what you would use, and that's what the characteristics of you individually that we would harness in the direction that you want to go. I wouldn't tell you to be anybody else or take on any new traits or characteristics or anything. And what it is you're going to be the natural you. You've already got everything you need.
Nice. Awesome. And so let's go back to our approaches between the way that European paradigms sort of help us and the American paradigms. So we talked about the psychological part of it. What about sales? So how do the Americans approach sales, or North Americans approach sales versus Europeans? What is the difference there?
The difference is the psychology in Western psychology in this country is all about doing. It's about statistics, which is what psychology gathers. It's about normal behavior, and it's kind of a homogenized approach. And they focus on what people say, and rather than why do they say what they do.
Got it. And
so Europe is different. It's totally different. It's let's find out what it means to be human. And what I do is I tell my my clients, they're born with like a starter kit, and this starter kit we all have. And so that starts as actually genetic logic, and that starts the ball rolling. Then what we do is we take the form of genetic logic, and then we apply it in our world and create our own rational sense of being. And that's how we function. That's why the 4, love, justice, wisdom, and power, is universal and absolute. And you find it everywhere in the world.
That's awesome. So it seems like, it actually humanizes the sales process, and it seems like it brings in a lot of harmony, a lot more fun in the actual transaction, both from the seller point of view and the customer point of view, because we are connecting at a very deeper level.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
And so I want to say, since I was able to find the primary motivator of my prospects, when I retired, I also thought, wouldn't it be nice if people can learn their own? That's what I've been doing. I want to design some type of questionnaire and a process so they can learn what really motivates them beneath their personality, so that they can have a real grip on what really makes them happy, what really gives them meaning in life, what gives them purpose, and what gives them a sense of belonging.
Got it. And now the 4 themes you brought up, I mean, we talked about these 4 themes from the customer point of view. Obviously, as a salesperson, we have those similar themes as well. So do you recommend that we sort of adjust the themes that we play upon based on the themes that we discover in our prospect, in our customer?
No, we don't change ourselves. What I have to do is I have to suspend my authentic, is what I say.
Okay.
Because if I didn't, I'm a wisdom. And if I didn't, everybody would turn out wisdom. So the way I did that is by reading objects. So objects are objective, scientific, physical evidence
I
of the
see.
decisions you've made in life.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
from that, I can deduce which theme you belong to.
Okay. And so let's say, my theme is power. I'm ambitious, but when I talk to somebody, let's say I'm talking to my spouse, my kids, somewhere where I need to bring in my love. How do you sort of switch off that attribute of me being ambitious and power hungry versus expressing my love? So that sort of is still not clear to me. Like, how do you adjust your personality according to that situation?
So we have all four: love,
Mhm.
justice, wisdom, and power. One
Mhm.
dominates the four.
Okay.
So when let's say, your power, the way you look at people in your life that you care for, you
Mhm.
look at them through the filter of power. When you
Okay.
think of what you need to learn in life, you look at what you need to learn through the eyes of power. And
Mhm.
justice, fair. What is fairness? What is morality and ethics? You look at those through the eyes of power. But when you look at power, you look at power for the sake of power,
I
because what
see.
you want to do is take on responsibility and be in control.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you have all four, but you have a different perspective on all of them.
I
So they're
see.
all open to you. You're going to
Got
have a
it.
flavor to them. Like for myself, before I got married, I had to know her for 7 years.
I
That's a
see. I
classic
see.
wisdom issue, right?
Okay.
When
Got
it
it.
comes to knowing, I need to know everything. I just
Mhm.
curious, constant, never stop.
Mhm.
When
Mhm.
it comes to people, I just want to be connected to them because I'm too busy reading books that other
I
people
see.
don't have to read. And
Yeah.
when it comes to power, that's about how I express myself to other people. And,
Got it.
and it's going to be what I know, like a teacher. So
Mhm.
you see, it all works. And in
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
another way of explaining this is, let's say you go to your faucet and the water's gray, and you
Mhm.
say, "Wait a minute, this is wrong. This is going to be unhealthy." You think about
Mhm.
your family, yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you think to yourself, "Well, this is not correct. There needs to be a change. I wonder who would know what's going on." So then
Mhm.
you call up the water department and say, explain what's going on, and they want somebody to be in action. So
Mhm.
you see how that works. From the
Yeah. Yeah.
morning, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, you're engaged with love, justice, wisdom, and power. You cannot
Awesome.
escape it.
That's great. That's great. Now, I mean, this is really almost, getting really deeply, intimately familiar with the other person, and it could be quite powerful, I can imagine. How do you make sure that it doesn't turn into manipulation? Because if you have that power on others, it's almost you can hypnotize them and have them do pretty much everything. So how do you maintain that balance and you don't go overboard?
Every person wants to express their authentic identity.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often they're not allowed to. There's many
Mm-hmm.
obstacles, bosses, wives, husbands, children. So those are the obstacles to that expression. So what I'm doing is enabling them to express their authentic identity. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what brings happiness and joy to them.
I see. I
So it's
see.
not manipulation, it's
So
opportunity
there
that
is.
I'm giving them.
Got it. Got it. All right. And now, can you tell us some of the mistakes that you have seen other people make in sales processes? You made some in your career, but what are the typical mistakes that you see most salespeople make, whether they are trying your approach or American approach or whatever approach, something that is universal?
Well, I do have a second book, and
Okay.
it's more like a journal, and it's
Okay.
called Learn to Sell What They're Buying,
Hmm.
which is very different approach.
I see.
So the difference is I want to get to know who they are
Hmm.
before I describe what I'm selling to them.
Okay.
And the issue is they don't stop and try to find out what that person is, and instead they have a homogenized perspective. A company makes a widget, and they'll have
Hmm.
a brochure to sell to say this is what we're selling.
Hmm.
Well, that's to the masses, but an
Yeah. Yeah.
individual walks through the door. Classic example. I helped one of my clients had a company that made equipment, exercise equipment. And they had a problem. People would walk in and describe what they wanted, and then they would give them what they thought they wanted, and they'd walk out the door and they'd never see them again. So I said, what are you selling with all this equipment? Well, I'm selling cardio. I'm selling cardio. I build you up, physical, lose weight, all these things. So I said, no, I don't think you are. I think what you're doing is you're selling people who want to date.
Yeah, I see.
These people are walking in for the first time. They really don't care. What the gals want to lose some inches. The guys want to buff up. They want to do it as cheaply as possible and get out of there, right?
Yeah.
And that is not what they were doing. So what I told them was, you need to learn what they're buying. Don't start from the manufacturer's brochure and tell them what they're buying, because this is why they leave. And this happens over and over and over again. Another one was these people get together and talk about, I wonder what my customer is buying. What is it that I can improve that'll make increase in sales? So I says, I want you to create 5 questions. And you go out to your clients and you ask them directly these 5 questions. And one of them will be, why do you buy from me and not the competition? Well, they got the answer. And they had about 4 or 5 of these people out there getting the answer. So now the next meeting is, this is what they want. How simple is that? But you see what I'm saying? So what they do is they get an idea of what they think they're selling. And then they don't understand why sales isn't increasing.
Nice. That's great. And so the theme of our show is bootstrapping. I'm guessing you also bootstrapped your business?
No, what do you mean by that?
So bootstrapping for us here, in North America, generally, it means like you built your business from the ground up with the minimum resources you had. You did not take external investments or what have you. Okay. You basically built it from the ground up.
Yes, that's exactly what I did. And I'm still in the process. Yes.
All right, great. So can you tell us what has been your experience bootstrapping, not taking external money, growing it from the ground up? Any benefits that you can share with us of bootstrapping your business?
I'm selling an abstract idea. And so what I can't package this up into a little gift and try to entice people. So my issue is I really need to create a fan base. And that's what I'm doing right now, is trying to create that fan base, because I'm spending my days researching, which means I've got my nose in a book. So you're not going to expand very well. So the other is I learned through this method, brains are always for sale. If you don't have them, they're out there to buy. So that's what I do. So I buy what I can't do.
Cool.
That's what I learned. And you give that up. You give up that control.
That's great. Yeah, well, those are really valuable words of wisdom. So don't try to do everything yourself, but you can be good at one thing, and then you can hire the other people to do the rest. Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your experience and knowledge with us. I'm sure everyone got a lot of value out of it. Now, if they want to connect with you, if they want to sign up for your workshop, how can they find you?
My site is johnvoris.com. Once you're on my site, look in consulting. And I offer 2 opportunities. I can help people find their life theme and their life identity. Then also I have a book, Discover the Power That Drives Your Personality, on Amazon. And those are the 2 major ways to do that. Or you can just email me at john@authentic-systems.com, and I can have a discussion with you before we start.
Great. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And that's all for now. Until next time. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or a career professional, then I invite you to join our growing community. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. As a welcome bonus, you will get the Startup Founders Technology Accelerator video series and Mastering Your Inner Game video series absolutely free. This series of short videos address some core issues which are instrumental in helping you move forward in your business or career. The videos are yours to view and share for free. No obligations or strings attached, except for one: you have to take action and implement it. So join us today, navigate to bootstrapping.group. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out the other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.